Hello YouTube, it's Jumpy23 here, and the good thing about being knocked out of CI7 early is that I get to do more commentaries. But enough about me. This is Sadlysius versus Fakes in Winners Round 4. So the winner of this game is guaranteed top 6 in the tournament, and even the loser is guaranteed top 12. But obviously you'd rather be in the top 6 than the top 12 of this tournament, so the stakes are pretty high. Uh, so we have Fakes on the top and Sadly on the bottom. Both of these players are we're not in CI6, so this is the first CI in a while. Sadly, with the hidden power fighting Zapdos, or that's a like modest HP grass on the weakest Tyranitar of all time, I'm gonna assume that's a hidden power fighting, because staying to HP grass Atar is an insane maneuver. But then that's a really excuse me, bulky Tyranitar, and it hits it with a toxic. So a leftovers toxic Tyranitar. Normally a toxic lead tar is going to be fast with taunt, which might take 62 from a grass. So I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see which of those two situations it is, but that is a very abnormal turn 1 tar versus zap lead situation. And Fakes gets a good switch with a Swampert into a Thunderbolt. He must know it's fighting then if he was willing to go Swampert on that, and misses a Hydro on Cloyster. That sucks, because Cloyster actually takes a lot from Hydro. Wow, these guys are moving really fast. I have to keep up with the commentary. Cloyster gets its lair. That's all Cloyster ever does in a game, so, congratulations to Cloyster. Maybe it can boom something later. And Fakes has another Toxic with Toxic Zap, landing on the Bliss, which will force a switch. If Sadly doesn't have any other Zap switch-ins, this Zapdos could do a lot of work. You're going to expect Fakes probably has spikes to take advantage of all this Toxic forcing switches, but it's not 100% necessary. Either way, if he spikes too early, the Cloyster can still spin it perhaps, so, not obvious what he should do from here. The Blissey is on a timer, but at 94% HP with no spikes up, he can absolutely afford to stay here and throw off some move. It can land a Toxic on something or just an Ice Beam for chip. And Fakes is actually the one on the back foot in this exchange. He's got to switch the Zapdos out if he doesn't want to take some chunk. He might have Protect. If he does, yeah, we'll see it this turn, and he did. And he could stay in and bolt the Bliss, taking the trade of the Ice Beam, but he chooses not to, which I think is probably the correct decision. Oh, but Sadly sees it coming, he gets a switch on his own. So Fakes his Tyranitar, heals with leftovers, but that doesn't say us anything about speed because Sadly's Tyranitar is at full hit points. So we don't know whose is faster. It's a physical Tyranitar from Sadly, and that Earthquake did a lot of damage. I don't know if that's Choice Band on a fat Swampert, or it's a very frail Swampert with a normal Tyranitar. I'm gonna guess Choice Band. It seems to make some sense with this composition, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what type of Swampert Fakes likes to run, so. Now this Tyranitar uh, is the one thinking, which means Fakes probably knows the set. Well, obviously Fakes knows the set, but the fact that Fakes instant locked something means he's not too afraid of this Tyranitar. And sadly has to decide what he has for Swampert because Cloyster is still there, but doesn't like taking focus punches, but it didn't. And now Cloyster can threaten a boom here for sure. But of course Swampert might be threatening Protect. With Earthquake damage like that, it might be a fat Swampert. I mean, even offensive Swampert doesn't run investment, so what am I saying? Oh, Fakes goes to Zapdos. Hard Zap on the Cloyster was a risky maneuver because Cloyster can run Ice Beam, and that would have hurt. But it's a really fat Zap taking 35 from that Surf. Well, maybe not. I don't know my Cloyster calcs. I think this Pokemon sucks ass and I never use it. But he does correctly say, yeah, that Cloyster's not staying in. He lands the Toxic on Bliss. Fakes is really behind at this point, so he's got to start making moves. A T-Bolt on the Tar is a good start. Oh, it is leftovers. Okay, so that's a really offensive Swampert, taking 31 from an Earthquake. I know Fakes loves modest Zapdos, so that's certainly what Zapdos we're looking at. which means this Tar has got some bulk investment most likely to take 46 from a modest T-Bolt. And it's just BKC Tar, which makes sense. Jirachi got absolutely hammered by that focus punch. Jesus Christ. Now Fakes is really on the back foot. He has nothing that happily switches into Tar, but he calls the Earthquake correctly, and now he threatens a Will-O-Wisp. Without any spikes up, he's really struggling to make progress through this Blissey. Like, it takes a lot of time to chip Blissey down with just, like, Toxics and Wisps, and that's not a situation you want to be in. And Sadly smartly goes into Zapdos on the Wisp, so he doesn't even eat it on Blissey. Sadly is absolutely playing this like a champ. I have to admit, I used to be not much of a Sadly believer. I didn't think he would make it out of play-ins, and I have been proven super wrong. He had a shaky game 1 versus Arctic, but you know, maybe that was nerves, because ever since that first game in the tournament, he's been playing like he really belongs here. And this is another example. Choosing to trade the Zapdos for some chip on the Swampert, I'm not 100% sure about. I think it makes sense insofar as Sadly realizes how useful his Tyranitar is, but that Swampert is so offensive that Tyranitar could have muscled through it on its own. That being said, Zapdos wasn't too valuable to Sadly, so it's a perfectly fine trade for sure. I probably would have done it. I'm just looking for things to say. But the Swampert does land a Hydro, and Fakes is theoretically up 6-5, but he's really on the back foot. Sadly has all the momentum in this game, and the Cloyster even comes in. It gets a free another Surf off. Zapdos doesn't want to take another, but nothing else does either. He could even Spike again, but I don't see the need. Just with one layer, Fake's team is melting before this Tyranitar. Oh, but he does Spike again. I think Surf damage on Gengar would have been nice, but, you know, a free Spike is a free Spike. If he can get a third layer up, then this game is looking even more sealed. That was a good switch out. The Gengar was threatening Taunt there, of course, and the Bliss is always going to Ice Beam because it doesn't want to waste a turn taunting or softing on Taunt. So he gets the Rachi in and gets to wish it up. Now, he still hates this Tyranitar, but oh, and Gengar's coming in on an HP Grass. So this is HP Grass Wish Jirachi, so it's probably Wish CM, but no, it took way too much from that Focus Punch to be Wish CM. I don't know. He gets a burn on the Gengar. Well, that's very lucky for Fakes. Now, Sadly is still fine insofar as he doesn't need this Gengar to like repeatedly come in. He's not playing a slow game here. You know, Fakes has a very offensive team, so even if Gengar is burned, it can still do its job. But that burn definitely, you know, makes Rachi 1v1 the Gengar, which was not a guarantee without it, so Fakes is very happy about that. And another wish is a very good wish because Rachi's in a good spot here, and you don't really want to switch it out because nothing on this team ever switches into anything at this point in the game. And he tries and catch the boom by going Gengar and fails. That was good patience from Sadlysius not to explode there. It wasn't that much better than Explosion, and the downside was way greater. Now he has the Cloyster around to save as a sack, or even to boom later if he gets it in on a double or something. With Blissey at 100%, it's a safe switch into Gengar, or 88%. Safe switch into Gengar. This Gengar doesn't really want to stay because it won't win. It'll taunt, it'll get Ice Beamed 3 times, and Blissey could even switch out and heal later on a sack or something. So it's not permanently removing it. The Zapdos isn't going to make progress even if he stays. So he chooses not to, but sadly has a good switch as well into Gengar. Is that a good switch? I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to catch with the Gengar. Perhaps just figured that it was the most sackable thing on the team, and that's fair enough. He does taunt the Rachi. Okay, so maybe that's all he wanted to do, is because now this Rachi is not happy. Now, I don't know if being this afraid of Rachi was correct, but, you know, I guess Wish Rachi can be annoying even if it doesn't have Protect. So this Rachi with burn, 3 layers, etc., etc., unless it can stay in 1v1 the Gengar and then immediately get a Wish off or something by threatening, I don't know. This Rachi's dead. Yeah, it's just dead. and now Fakes' team has even less longevity than it already didn't have. It's looking super good for Sadly. I'm really not sure what either of these players' lasts will be. Fakes has enough rock resists. Usually if the last isn't, like if there's no rock resist yet, then the last is pretty easy to guess, but that's not the case. It's probably some sort of Dragon Dancer, maybe a Salamence. And on Sadly's team, it's a rock resist. Speaking of which, probably a Metagross because offensive teams don't tend to run Pert, but it could be some sort of off Pert. So on that double kill with the burns, Fakes goes to Zapdos with the switch disadvantage, and sadly, oh shit, this is a crazy Tyranitar set. So it's Earthquake, Focus Punch, Substitute, Rock Slide. Normally, the substitute physical Tars drop Earthquake and run HP Bug, but I guess Sadly figured with all of his team, he is perfectly fine into Celebi, and Fakes' last is a Dugtrio. Oh, wait. That's a great last for this. So Zap Dug with no Baton Pass on the Zap, but if you can get your Dug in with smart plays like Explosion Gengar, then you still get to Dug things. And now the Zapdos is a big threat to Sadlysius. So like I said, Sadly's last has got to be a Rock Resist, and um, it might not be one that can 1v1 Zapdos. In that case, you know, Fakes is really back in this game. I am very sorry for for calling this one too early. So he goes hard into Blissey. That is an interesting play. He's saying, I can Ice Beam your Dugtrio and live a Thunderbolt after and still heal. Uh, it depends on the Dugtrio spread, frankly. And the Blissey, it could be Bold Bliss, in which case that is much more likely for Sadlysius to be correct. But, you know, Face can still make some things happen with, like, going Tyranitar. Tyranitar can just click, like, Earthquake, Rock Slide, anything at this point. The Cloyster revealed itself to be faster than Rachi, which probably means it's also faster than Tyranitar. You'd expect that Cloyster to be 244 speed in that case. Oh, right, Tyranitar was at 19%. So he sacks it. Swampert at 10% is interesting. Oh, and the Blissey is faster. I'm going to call that game. Fakes was really needing his Swampert to be faster so he could threaten a Focus Punch Earthquake 50-50 and try and take the Blissey out that way. I would have just stayed and Earthquaked if I were Fakes. But, you know, I don't know what he knows. And a Freeze. It doesn't matter. But I don't know what Fakes knows, but I think stay in Earthquake and Pray was the play that made some more sense. Because, you know, you could always crit. But even if you don't, you know, Blissey's taking 55. We don't even know the Blissey's, like, HP investment because it has been only taking residual damage. It has literally never taken an actual attack. I think I'm a turn or two behind. Oh, yeah. Frick, the Earthquake did 61. Uh, I am not sure why Fakes chose not to stay. I think he could have definitely won the game if he just Earthquaked the Bliss when he had the shot. So, well, that was an interesting play, but congrats to Sadly. Yeah, Fakes is saying in chat that the last is Agi meta. I agree, but it could be Agi boom meta. It could miss a rock slide. I think you go for that Earthquake, but well, you know, Fakes is in the tournament still, and I'm not. So, you know, what do I know? So, oh, game two has started. I'm brain farting. Uh, Fakes with the Salamence, Sadly with the Tyranitar. So in this lead, you know, the Tyranitar wants to switch if it's not Ice Beam every time. If it is Ice Beam, generally you just risk and you say, you're not CB Mints. If you are, I'm going to win because CB Mints is a shit Pokemon. And Fakes is not CB Mint. Whoa, okay. Weird turn one. Fakes switches out because he's not CB. Tar stays in and Rock Slides, which would never kill. It's maybe some sort of really offensive team that just doesn't deal with mixed mints well. I've played those types of teams before, and you can stay there. Oh, but it's a Thief Skarmory. So Fakes is in for the long haul here. Now that's particularly interesting because I really don't think Sadly is. In fact, I wouldn't have even been surprised if Sadly didn't have leftovers. um, but so far, Sadly's in a good position here. He's just fishing, trying to find out what Fakes has on his team. But Fakes has said, you are Pexcarm, you can't permanently injure my Claydol, and he's almost certainly correct with a team like this. So he's just trying to get the spin off, and I think that keeping to go Claydol and force Sadly to make the click and get the roar every single time is absolutely the correct thing to do here. But Sadly keeps pulling in the Metagross, which Fakes is presumably super not happy about, as Metagross has got to be like the last thing on his team that wants to fight a Skarm. Now it is a Thiefed Skarm, which is huge. Metagross, like fat Metagross with lefties and Protect, if you can thief the opposing Skarm, like there's nothing you can't do. That Metagross will absolutely tear through teams unless there's a bulky water. Given Sadly's offensive team, I would be surprised to see like a Milotic here. And even then, you can get through that with mash raises. So, you know, Fakes is in a great spot here, having landed the Thief on the Skarm and having a Claydol. He just needs to stay patient. And I think he recognizes that having clicked instantly, while Sadly is the one who has to think, you know, how many more times am I going to do this? It can't keep working every time, but it keeps working every time. He pulls in a Tyranitar, but Tyranitar is not too afraid of Skarm, and this one might stay. Leftovers means it's probably a physical Tyranitar. It could be Suit. It isn't. It tries to focus and gets pecked. That's hilarious. Sadly risked it all for the silliest 3% chip of all time. And he recognizes that, you know, I'm not doing that again and goes to Metagross. But Metagross lets in Fakes' Skarmory. And Sadly realizes that and doubles out to Regice. That was an opportunity for Fakes to really press the advantage, I think, if he had predicted that double. I can't blame him for being too afraid to do that, but that would have been a really heads-up awesome play. So standard trade here. Fake says, I want my lair, and Sadly takes his chip, and then back into the Regice check, and wow, you know, Sadly's reading him all over. That was a good Thunder Wave. Tyranitar doesn't hate being slowed down too much. It was already slower than the Metagross, which would be the main thing that you'd really not want to be T-Wave behind. But with a Pokemon like BKC Tar in this kind of matchup, staying on the field for 10 turns, you know, Thunder Wave can get you some crucial full paras. You can't predict them to happen, but eventually it'll happen. Oh, and he calls the Focus Punch and stays with an Ice Beam. Jesus. You know, Sadly is calling every turn right this entire game. This is truly incredible. Fakes, I think, is getting a bit desperate because um, I still think he's fine with this Metagross. Look how dominant of a position it's in. It's even like Sadly's Metagross is chipped. If Fakes' Metagross is faster. Um, Maybe that was special tar damage on the Metagross earlier with that focus. It didn't seem like it to me, but you know, Sadly is so confident that this tar can't just rock slide his ass, or he doesn't want to lose meta because that's his only Metagross check. So he'd rather trade down the Regice, which is fair enough, maybe. Um, we'll see. I think, you know, these have been really risky Ice Beams. I would not have had the balls to stay in an Ice Beam on these, but it's working out for him. With Regice down, he's so much more scared of like a Mixed Mints, which is what I assume that Mints is. But, wow, he wins the stare down entirely. Fakes actually switches out, and Skarm gets in unharmed. But he roars in the doll, finally, and with the Thief to peck Skarm, it's not winning this 1v1. So, Sadly can choose to like stay and try and peck the doll a few times, but the doll I think can sit on this Scarm until it eventually wins. I don't think that Fakes is going to decide he needs it with this healthy Metagross in the back that's quite defensively redundant with Claydol. And in fact, yes, Fakes does say I can stay and spin, and Sadly says I can't. Missing that Toxic and getting crit, that is a ginormous turn. So that was Sadly's plan for the doll versus the Thief Scarm, which makes sense. I've seen like the Taunt Tox Tar, Taunt Scarm. H-Clat was spamming that on ladder last year before bringing it to CI, and it was really impressive to fight. So, Sadly had a good pair there with some fun moves, but doesn't matter when you just like dodge a Toxic and crit on the same turn, taking out the Tyranitar. So, Fakes, despite the clusterfuck that was the Tyranitar on Regice sequence, Fakes is still feeling fine. Sadly, most likely doesn't have a spinner with the double taunt. The double taunt is his Spikes game plan. But with Metagross and Regice in the back, I'm not sure how much I like it. Those are Pokemon that let in Skarmory. It could be some sort of CB or mixed meta. We haven't seen it. It just switched out. But oh wait, it's not CB because it has leftovers. But so Fakes of Salamence is in a position where it can kind of just click a move. We see 3 Fire Weeks in the back, so even though the Regice won't take that much from a blast, it doesn't want to take it over Spikes with Sand Up. And in fact, that's what Sadly decides is his best maneuver. Oh, but Fakes clicks Dragon Claw, so the Regice takes it comfortably. That would have been a 40% from a Fire Blast, which would put it in... No, it wouldn't put it in brick range, I don't think. But anyway, doesn't matter because that's not the universe that we live in. The Blissey comes in on Regice, which feels like something that should have come in on Regice earlier, but of course, Fakes doesn't want to take a boom with it. And switches right back out, trying to read the boom and gets it. So the Metagross takes the boom in only a 19% chip. If this is Leftovers Metagross in this sort of matchup, or not Leftovers, if this is Protect Metagross, it can easily heal that kind of stuff back off, and it is, and it will. And Sadly's meta Earthquakes, meaning it's probably not Mix, and Fakes feels it's safe to go into Scarm, but it does take a meaty 21 from a Meteor Mash, and a crit right back. So, 1 for 1 on the crits, and that sucks for Fakes because he probably could have gotten 3 layers there, and sadly doesn't have a spinner, almost guaranteed. Instead, he's stuck with 1 layer, so, Sadly's Metagross can really go ham on this team. Blissey, Tar, hate taking it. Fakes' meta is Chipster and, doesn't want to trade when Fakes feels like his meta is also a win condition. But the Claydol and the Salamence are still healthy enough to force out this Metagross for now, and with 1 layer, at least it won't be healing when it comes in for free. So the Skarm comes in on a Flamethrower and gets burned, as if that mattered, with no lefties, yeah, whatever. But Flamethrower Salamence, that reveal is interesting because that means it doesn't actually one-shot the Mets, or the meta. So the Sadly's Metagross, can threaten a boom or even a mash later in the game. Not right now. It's not going to want to come right back in and do that, but that is something that Sadly definitely wants to keep in mind. I understand the ABR pill, having lost to missing like 2 Hydras in a row, being knocked out of the tournament on that, but I really hate, Flamethrower Salamence. It's so weak. Fakes complaining about the burn makes sense to me. He's complaining in the Discord instead of, for some reason, not complaining in the battle chat. So he said the burn was good for Sadly, and I can see that as, the Skarmory was a free invite for Claydol every time. But he does get the Bliss in on an Ice Punch. Doesn't get a cheeky Wisp predict from Sadlysius. So that's great. He can heal, but that invites in Metagross, but he has to do it. With the spike up, he doesn't have a choice. And, oh, never mind, he has a choice because he has Thunderwave Bliss. You know, that's CALLOUS' favorite Bliss set, and I don't tend to like it that much because it is blanked by walls, but in an offense matchup like this, you know, T-Wave Bliss can really do work, and you know, that's where he has it. So the T-Wave on meta means that Fakes can recover stall it with Bliss until he gets a full para, assuming that the full para comes before a mash raise. But he doesn't go for it. Oh, but he should have. He should have. The meta is still faster than the Tar, so, you know, that doesn't matter for anything. The Salamence comes in and threatens the Flamethrower, but like I said, Flamethrower is not going to kill. So if I were Sadly, I'm exploding this meta right here, right now. Trying to take out the Mints. But I do understand not doing that with the Gengar in the back. That beats Mints every time. You want meta as a free switch into Blissey. Wow. This end game is also intense. That's 2 in a row. So, you know. CI 7, you know, top 12 gaming. This is what you get. You get intense, well-fought games. And I hope you're enjoying as much as I'm enjoying watching. I don't know if I want a game 3 or not. I want more games, but you know, the longer I have to commentate, the more likely I am to say something, you know, like very stupid, as opposed to, you know, moderately space filling like I've been doing. Fakes seems to know what Sadly's last is. Because I'm playing double duty of commentator and player and stuff, like, I never end up really predicting lasts while I'm watching. Oh, 55% from a flamethrower. Holy moly, that is a frail Gengar, and Fakes trades with it. I understand that he didn't want to get his Blissey called out, but you have to know with 55% from a flamethrower that it was not Wisp Taunt Gengar, that it was going to be like 3 attack explosion. So I guess he didn't want a double into whatever he thinks Sadly's last is. I don't know. I would have just gone Bliss, recovered, but I guess Fakes was probably reading the Metagross coming back in. With a parried Metagross, I think you fish. And the last from Sadly is Suicune. That makes a ton of sense. And Fakes has Fakes has to like crit boom here, and then win the Metagross 1v1 with the help of a Thunderwave full para at this point in order to win. Unless this is a really fast Claydol, could be faster than the Suicune, which is certainly a rest Coon. Well, Sadly says, I think you win. Does Boom one-shot the Coon here? All we can do is wait and see. Sadly might also try and read that, going Metagross. I'm not sure why Sadly thinks Fakes wins, but it must be like an offensive Coon that will actually die to an explosion. And he crits the Claydol, so the world may never know. Well, that's the set. Lots of crits in game 2, you know, unfortunate. Oh, Fakes is saying that his meta would live in EQ from Sadly's. Yeah, it could be a Impish meta or something like that. So, unfortunate ending. You know, Fakes got that toxic dodge and that crit, but Sadly got those 2 crits right back that hurt just as bad. Some interesting plays from Fakes both games. I think he threw pieces, or you know, I think there were some plays where Fakes made an aggressive read. You know, switching the Dugtrio out of the Bliss, uh, staying in with Mints, trying to get like a surer victory, and instead led himself to defeat. I'm sure Fakes is gonna ping me and let me know why I'm wrong and stupid when he watches his commentary back. like he did to Ferdazi last round. But he is now posting in chat about why he's the better player. You know, fair enough. When you get hacked, I get that. Well, when you think you get hacked, because now Sadly is saying the Tox dodge was more important than any of my crits. Anyway, those are the games. Sadlysius wins. He makes it to top 6. And Fakes is still in the tournament. He's in loser's bracket now, so you know, don't count out if you're a Fakes fan. You know, he's still there. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed. Bye.